meeting is now session. Susan Lynch presiding. Please be seated. Thank you.
All right, good morning, and let's go ahead and set forth our appearances for the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Eric Pepperman, Will Kemp, Teddy Parker, and Brianna Switzler for plaintiffs.
Good morning, Your Honor. Joel Liu and Eric Freeman here in court on behalf of the Real Water defendants. Matthew Kaufman is via Zoom.
All right.
Your Honor, I have copies of the punitive damages jury instructions that were discussed yesterday, as well as a verdict form that has been agreed to by the parties.
Okay.
And we agree subject to the objections that we talked about yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that have been placed on the record, absolutely.
The instructions include a copy for your signature, Your Honor, to be filed, and a copy without your signature to go back with the jury.
All right, let me take a look, sir. And today's the 23rd, right? Oh, you have the money order? Yeah, as far as the money order, that, we won't give that to her until after we're done.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'll make sure we're clear on that. And let me look at the verdict form.
Just for the record, there's actually two money orders. I don't know why, this is the amount of the money order. There's two, just to make sure.
And I just want to make sure we don't make a mistake here. I've signed, we have two punitive damage jury instructions, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's the instructions. And then, yeah, here's one without my signature. Okay, I'm handing that to the court clerk, and last but not least, and we have a simple jury instruction on the punitive damage verdict, right?
Verdict form, yes, Your Honor.
Yes. There you go, man, for the record. Okay, so, anything else outside the president?
Yes, Your Honor. One quick matter. We discussed this yesterday. For reasons that are obvious, I want to put it on the record again. This will be the fourth time that Real Water is in a punitive damages situation where there will be a punitive damage award based on the same conduct. And for reasons of due process, we objected to that. We understand that there doesn't appear to be any recent cases addressing that, but there were some United States Supreme Court cases addressing that. And so I think eventually the Nevada Supreme Court is going to have to address the propriety of that due process problem.
I understand, sir.
And that's it, Your Honor. We just wanted to, again, for obvious reasons, make sure that our position's clear.
Yeah, and for the record, you're preserving your rights from an appellate perspective. I get it.
That's it exactly. Thank you, Your Honor. And we're ready to proceed.
Okay. Is the plaintiff ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
All right, bring him in. right, do the parties stipulate to the presence of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say good morning to you. All right, and so as you know now, we're proceeding to the second and final phase of your deliberations. And for the record, subject to any objections, are the parties familiar with and approve the proposed jury instructions 1 and 2?
Yes,
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is the punitive damage phase of the case, and you're going to have another opportunity to listen to argument of counsel. It's my understanding plaintiffs are ready to proceed. Is that correct?
Oh,
All right.
Your Honor, it's not necessarily arguments of counsel. I think there's a witness being called.
Oh,
We
okay.
have one, Your Honor,
Oh,
this
yeah.
one by video.
I understand. I got you.
Thank you. I think we have it queued up.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, you will hear some evidence by video, like we've heard throughout the case.
Please raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Mark Rich, N-R-A-R-I-C-H. Okay.
Okay. So, Mr. Rich, can you tell me what your profession is?
I'm a certified public accountant. I'm also certified in financial forensics.
And what's the difference between those two?
Well, a certified public accountant deals with tax and audit, financial matters and such, but a certified financial, or being certified in financial forensics, you deal in more complex accounting and business matters that tend to be high dollar amounts.
Yes, sir. And how many years of experience do you have?
I've been a CPA for over 40 years and a certified in financial forensics for over 10 years.
And who certified you in the financial forensics environment?
The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants.
And what are the requirements to be able to qualify for such a designation?
Well, there's a requirement for experience in that field, and there's also an exam that you take similar to the CPA exam where you have to qualify by examination.
Yes, sir. It's my understanding, Mr. Rich, that you've been engaged here by the plaintiffs to take a look at this case and give an opinion or determination as to the bottled water industry. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
And have you done so?
Yes, I am.
It's my understanding that you've looked at Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle is just an example of the bottled water industry.
That is correct.
Are those some of the bigger players in the bottled water industry?
Yes, those are probably the biggest. Nestle being globally one of the largest.
And based upon your review of the bottled water industry, have you come up with a determination or some form of opinions in terms of the size of the bottled water industry?
Yes. Globally, the bottled water industry is probably 300 billion. That's in the U.S., which is one of the largest components of the global market. In 2022, it was 85 billion. It's estimated in 24 to be about 95 billion. And there's an anticipated growth rate in the bottled water industry to be at least 6% per year. And by the year 2030, it's anticipated that the bottled water industry in the U.S. would be somewhere around 135 billion.
Yes, sir. So let's just focus on the U.S. at this point. It's my understanding, based on what you just said, that the U.S. bottled water industry is about approximately $85 billion.
That would be in 22, and in 24, it's anticipated
ever done an analysis based on the appropriate amount of punitive damages?
Yes,
And did you do a similar analysis in this case?
yes.
Based upon your analysis in this case, based on the auto water industry, what type of punitive damage would be necessary to have a positive effect on the industry?
Yes, I believe in my report that I indicated that a $2 billion punitive damage award would be nominal to this industry. It would be less than 1% of the market value of companies such as Coca-Cola, Pepsi, which is our Cocaine, Coca-Cola is the sign, and Nestle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rich.
Mr. Rich, good afternoon. I'll be very brief. I just want to make sure you can hear me. If at any time it glitches or you can't hear me, just let us know. Got basically 3 categories of questions for you. Coca-Cola, do you have an opinion as to how many employees Coca-Cola has in the state of Nevada?
No, I do not.
Do you have an opinion how many employees Coca-Cola has in the United States of America?
No, I do not.
Do you have an opinion how many employees Coca-Cola has worldwide?
No, I do not.
Would you say it's a lot?
I would say it would be thousands in each case.
I'm sorry, big glitch. There we go. I predicted the future. I didn't hear your answer, sir. Maybe the jury did. What was your answer? I apologize.
I said it would be thousands.
Thank you, sir. If I ask you the same question for Pepsi, would it be about the same? You don't know, but thousands of employees.
Yes,
And the same for Nestle?
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gentlemen, for the questions.
The alkaline water product, is that simply a part of the industry?
Yes, the analysis that I've seen, and a lot of the information we get, is research material that's provided by Dun & Bradstreet. And they tend to group those bottled water industry as one, considering it to be an industry bottled water. And there are various variations of that. You know, spring water, you see those products on the shelf. And so they really don't break that out in, you know, the detailed analysis with the gross volume and things of that nature.
Yes, sir. So be it spring water, vitamin water, alkaline water, they all make up this bottled water industry?
Yes.
So when you gave the opinion earlier, what impact or what amount would be necessary to have a positive impact, that was for the entire bottled water industry, regardless of the type.
That is correct. And our analysis indicates that most of these companies are larger companies that branch into these other areas.
So be it a larger, middle size, big size, regardless of the size, they all make up a part of this overall bottled water industry,
That is correct.
and they're all competing for this $85 billion worth of market share.
Yes.
And your opinion was one developed to address everyone participating in that market.
That is correct.
Are you aware of any other alkaline bottled water manufacturer that uses titanium tubes as part of their process in manufacturing?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
Are you aware of any of the other manufacturers of alkaline water, whether it be Pepsi, Nestle, Coca-Cola, whoever, using titanium tubes to electrify their water as part of their manufacturing process?
I'm not aware of that, no.
That is it, Sean.
All right, is that it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And
Ready
thank
to
you.
move to argument.
All right, ready for argument, Mr. Parker?
Well, we need to have the instruction for that, please.
Oh. And you are correct, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as a predicate to closing argument as it pertains to the punitive damage phase of this matter, just like in the first phase, I'm required to, of course, instruct you on what the appropriate law would be. Do you understand that? And remember, at the very outset, we talked about jury instructions. I understand you know their importance, and you've had an opportunity to work with them to get to this phase. As far as the jury instructions we have, it's my understanding, counsel, we have 2 instructions only. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I will read to you the following 2 jury instructions. Instruction number 1. There are no fixed standards for determining the amount of punitive damages award. The amount is left to you, to your sound discretion, to be exercised without passion or prejudice, and in accordance with the following governing principles. The amount of punitive damage award is not to compensate the plaintiffs for harm suffered, but what is reasonably necessary to punish and deter the defendant and others from engaging in such conduct, such that warranting punitive damages in this case. In arriving at any award of punitive damages, you are to consider the following. 1, the reprehensibility of the conduct of the subject defendant, and 2, the amount of punitive damages that will serve the purpose of punishment and deterrence. Instruction number 2. Evidence has been presented concerning the defendant's conduct outside of Nevada and or conduct injuring others who are not parties to this litigation. You cannot use such evidence to award plaintiffs punitive damages for conduct outside of Nevada, or conduct injuring others who are not parties to this litigation, or conduct that does not bear a reasonable relationship to the conduct injuring plaintiffs that warrants punitive damages in this case. You may consider such evidence only with respect to the reprehensibility of the defendant's conduct, and only to the extent the conduct is similar and bears a reasonable relationship to the defendant's conduct injuring plaintiffs that warrants punitive damages in this case. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. In light of that, are we ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Parker?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning. Let me first say thank you. I know you've been here for virtually 3 weeks now. You've been very patient, very attentive. You've hung out with us for this length of time, and we've gone through hundreds of exhibits. I don't know how many slides. I know we've done at least 34 witnesses, I believe. So we do truly, and I say this not only on behalf of the plaintiffs, but certainly on behalf of defendants as well, appreciate your service. With that said, I told you last night or yesterday afternoon that I would be brief today. I intend to keep my promise. And what I want to remind each of you initially is the reprehensibility of Real Water's conduct and the consequences of that conduct or misconduct. Shane, please show me slide number 4, I believe. And I refer to this slide as the consequences slide. And you've learned through this trial, through the MMWR report of the one death of the lady in her 60s. You know that Sever Morales, the child, one of the children flown from Las Vegas to Salt Lake City to the primary children's hospital, had a biopsy done, 22 months old, and showed permanent liver damage, including cirrhotic nodules. You heard of that. You know that 6 of the plaintiffs in this case had biopsies, all showing some form of fibrosis, a permanent injury to their livers. We know from the FDA investigation that there were 20 to 25 reported customer complaints, never disclosed by Real Water until that investigation began in March of 2021. We know that there were 23 customer delivery terminations, all related to medical conditions. Again, information that Real Water withheld from the public, only coming to light by virtue of a US FDA, CDC, and Southern Nevada Health District investigation. We know dead pets, 3 dogs, 1 cat. We know of 18 customer complaints going back to 2013 all the way through 2020. We also know from Ms. Doran, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Kessler, Mr. Watkins. Mr. Watkins is a plaintiff here, of hospitalizations, vomiting, comas. We've heard all of their testimony. And worst of it, I would suggest, in terms of these 18 customer complaints, Ms. Doran called, informed them of the problem, and said she was doing it just to make them a better company. Mr. Fisher in Tampa, hospitalized, never got a response. We had complaints from Florida to Oregon to California, across this country. And Real Water was sold across the country, from Amazon to Costco, Terrible Herbs, Whole Foods, all of it. Mr. Randolph, Anthony Randolph, the Vice President of Distribution, begged the Vice President of Real Water, please do a stop, please do a recall. You've gotten sick. We've gotten tremendous calls about people getting sick. They refused. Mr. Randolph's nephew and his brother-in-law got sick, in addition to Mr. Jones getting sick. No recall, no stop. Those are consequences. Next slide, please. And what we do know, all bullet points, please, thank you. This is what we know in terms of our plaintiffs. All of them now, and this is not a disputed issue, all of them now are subject to 20 years worth of testing. 20 years, not knowing whether or not the next test will reveal that their permanent injuries turn to cirrhosis, which will diminish, of course, their liver function.
Objection, lacks evidence.
Your Honor, this deals with the reprehensibility of their misconduct and the results of that.
I understand. Overrule. Continue.
Thank you. We also know, and there's no dispute about this, that in addition to the physical testing, there's a mental component to this. Dr. Lynn, the pediatric hepatologist, talked about as a doctor and as a parent what goes into this psychologically for these plaintiffs, not knowing if the next test will reveal how bad their permanent injury has developed. And then finally, Mr. DeQuante Henry, he's looking down the barrel of losing between, at a minimum, 16 years of his life to 32 years of his life. Half of his life, he's only 27 at this point. These are the consequences of this misconduct, of this reprehensible, egregious conduct. Next slide, Shane. And can we show the whole jury instruction one more time, Shane? So this is what the judge just read to each of you. And we agree, of course, and this is the law passed down by the court. And it is within your sound discretion to determine without passion or prejudice. And that's important because we're not asking for passion. It's unnecessary given the consequences of this. We're all passionate people. We bring that with us. But you don't need to have passion to determine just how impactful their misconduct has been in this community. You don't need that. A reasoned decision will hold them accountable. It says here the amount of punitive damage award is not to compensate the plaintiffs for harm. You've already done that. That was done yesterday. You've made that decision. Today is the day to punish real water. Today is the day to make sure this never happens again. That's today. That's why you're here. And you've made that decision. When you struck the box saying yes, you made that decision. And ultimately today, not only will you make that decision, you will make that difference we spoke about in broad deer. You will make the difference. And it says here, it's really important. It says, but what is reasonably necessary to punish and deter the defendant and others from engaging in conduct such as warranting punitive damages in this case. Not only real water, but others. That's the bottled water industry that we're speaking about. The industry that you're going to mandate by way of this punitive damage award, that no new bottling company will use an unproven, untested method to make water that's supposed to be safe for everyone. If it's not safe, if it's not tested, how can it be safe? How do you know it's safe unless you test it? You're not going to let that happen again by virtue of this decision. You're not going to allow companies like Real Water to ignore safety, to ignore hazard, to ignore customer complaints. That won't happen after this decision, because you will make that difference, not only for Real Water, but for this industry. Every drink of bottled water will be safer because of this decision, because of your decision. Go up a little bit for me, Shane. And these are the two factors here, the reprehensibility of the conduct of Real Water, which we've discussed, and the purposes of punishment and deterrence. And that's what we're going to speak about. And that's what Mark Rich, the CPA, just spoke about. Next slide, Shane. The 2022 global bottled water market revenue of $330 billion. That's global. Now, we're not going to ask you to apply the global water bottling industry. We're going to have you apply the U.S. It says the U.S. was $85 billion in 2022, with a projected growth rate of 6%. Mr. Rich testified that the market in 2024, this year, $95 billion. I want you to take that in mind. $95 billion, 1 year. 1 year, $95 billion, that's the market. These plaintiffs have been in this litigation for 3.5 years. This company opened in 2008. There's been complaints dating back to 2013. For over a decade, this company, trying to take advantage of this bottling industry and these types of annual proceeds, caused these problems. Next slide, Shane. This is what you just heard. And I pulled this up because he said a $2 billion punitive damage award would be nominal to this industry. I'm asking you to make a decision that's not nominal. I want you to make a decision that's impactful. And as he said in his testimony under oath, that will have a positive effect on this industry. And that's what the difference means, having a positive effect on the bottled water industry and on companies like Real Water. Next slide, Shane. What I'm suggesting here, ladies and gentlemen, is just, you can put all numbers up. These are numbers that are in excess of 2 billion, but represents 3.8% of the annual market up to 5%. Just so you have these numbers in mind. And you will make your own decision. But certainly we believe that these are more than reasonable numbers, just above nominal in our opinion. This is 3.8%. The highest number we put is 5%. And you can decide to go higher, lower, whatever this jury you collectively believe would be appropriate. We're suggesting that this is a reasonable number, but we wanted to give you some indication. Next slide. We're recommending a number in between 4.4% and 5%, or 4.75% of the 95 annual billion amount that this market produces. We believe that's consistent with the misconduct of Real Water, and we believe it's necessary to deter this type of conduct in the future. Mr. O'Doul will have a chance to provide his thoughts on this, and then I'll get one more chance to speak to you. But I want you to consider these numbers, consider the conduct or misconduct of Real Water, and I'll look forward to speaking to you shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. O'Doul.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. On behalf of myself, Mr. Kaufman, and Mr. Freeman, we want to thank you again for your attention and for all of the hard work that you've put in on this matter. I want to kind of start where Mr. Parker started, so we're going to put up the second jury instruction, please. So, as you heard from Mr. Parker, he talked about reprehensibility, but then he immediately shifted into conduct of outside the state of Nevada, parties who are not part of this litigation, and made a fairly short, from Mr. Parker, presentation as to all of those things and why those should warrant punitive damages in this case. And we would ask, on behalf of Real Water, on behalf of the court, frankly, that you follow the law, review this instruction, and when you come to a punitive damages number, give careful consideration to all the instructions that you're given, but this one as well. So in terms of the instruction, I'm not going to read it. It's fairly self-explanatory, but I do appreciate the fact that you carefully looked at the prior instructions, and we appreciate that you're going to look at this instruction. Let's go to the first instruction now. So this is a difficult question. When we first met, even during voir dire, I talked to you about this is a damages case, and coming up with the right number is important. And coming up with the right number is critical, and it's difficult. It's a difficult assignment. And you saw the arguments of counsel in the compensatory damages phase, and the arguments of counsel are not evidence. And the arguments that you've heard now are not evidence. These are just to point out the evidence to you. And that's what we would like you to do. Use your sound discretion, exercise that number without passion. Okay, Mr. Parker talked about making a difference and trying to punish Real Water for an $85 or $95 billion industry. That's to push on the passion button. That's to get you to punish Real Water to the conduct of Pepsi, or for its conduct, but punish Real Water in an amount that would punish Pepsi-Cola, punish Coca-Cola, punish Nestle. And you heard us ask Mr. Rich about those companies. And you heard us ask him about the size of those companies, about Coca-Cola having 700,000 plus employees worldwide, Pepsi-Cola having 315,000 employees, not including their bottlers, Nestle employing nearly 300,000 people. These are incredibly large companies, billions of dollars. These are huge, astronomical numbers. Real Water had about 30 employees. Okay? But that doesn't excuse their conduct. That's just the ballpark that they've asked you to look at versus the ballpark that we've asked you to look at. Look at the conduct of Real Water. It's not pretty. Okay? These people should not have gone through what they did. The punitive damages award should reflect the injuries to these people. Don't punish Real Water because you want to send a message to Pepsi, Coca-Cola, or Nestle. Punish Real Water because you want to send a message to Real Water. And that's what we're asking you to do. You were very considerate and reasonable in coming up with your $230 million cumulative verdict for these plaintiffs. We ask that you be very reasonable and considerate when you come up with your punitive damages number for Real Water. Again, I want to thank you. We wanted to keep this brief. I believe that they're going to have lunch for you, so I don't want to cut into the lunch hour. Again, we appreciate everything that you've done as part of your civic duty and part of being here. You didn't ask to get out of jury duty. You came here and served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Doul. Mr. Parker, last word, sir.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Shane, could you do me a favor? Could you put jury instruction number 1 out for me? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little disturbed by what Mr. O'Doul just said. It appeared to me when he was saying it that he was asking you not to follow the jury instructions. Go up a little high, Shane. Little high. Perfect. He said, punish real water, but not others. Now, what did we learn? The first thing this Judge Williams told us, follow the jury instructions. So I guess he was asking you to not punish others. And so as a part of that comment, he suggested to you that this punitive damage award would punish Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola. I think that's what he said. This punitive damage award is against real water. This punitive damage award would encourage Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, Nestle to never commit the same heinous acts that real water did. This suggestion that this punitive damage award, whatever you decide, is going to be paid by Coca-Cola isn't evidence. Pepsi-Cola wasn't on stand. Pepsi-Cola didn't fail to have a quality control person, a quality assurance person, a director of any form, any director that actually has a training. Again, this distraction attempt by real water should not resonate with you. Because this rule, this jury instruction, this law says you are to consider in your amount preventing or deterring others from doing exactly what they did. That's what it's about. So I'm sure Mr. O'Doul didn't mean for you to ignore the law, because that would just be wrong. Because that's what it reads. Second instruction, please, Shane. And I want to, Mr. O'Doul pointed out the first part of this instruction, but let's see the bottom part of it. Thank you. You may consider such evidence only with respect to the reprehensibility of defendant's conduct, which we've discussed. I haven't talked about Coca-Cola having any bad problems, or Pepsi, or Nestle, or anyone else. And only to the extent the conduct is similar and bears a reasonable relationship to the defendant's conduct, injuring plaintiffs that warrant punitive damages in this case. These plaintiffs, all seated here, that have been here every day virtually for 3 weeks, and we've not seen a single real water person. Not one. Not the president, the vice president, not a single one of them. And we're asking you to come up with a number that punishes them for what these people have gone through, and to prevent others from doing it in the future. I said this earlier. Real water has come here, ladies and gentlemen, after 16 years of making a poisonous product without grace, asking you for grace. That's what they're doing. And then Mr. O'Doul tries to shield or distract you from their misconduct by saying, this is a company of 30 people. I showed you what the FDA found out about their holding companies, their various locations, the different state secretaries of state that they've been located in and incorporated in. And if they were a small company, does that mean small companies get a pass for making a poisonous product that killed people? Big, small, or somewhere in between. And I want you to consider this. Give me slide number 2, please, Shane. Henry Ford, that's a family business. Started in 1901 and now has 177,000 employees, $176 billion annually. Small, bad companies could turn out to be big, bad companies. Your message will deter people from doing what Real Water did. It's going to deter small companies, big companies, middle-sized companies from not testing, from not doing investigations when people are getting sick and dying. Samwell founded Walmart, 1962, 10,500 stores, 2.1 million employees, 573 billion in annual proceeds. A family business. It shouldn't matter. Family, no family. What we do know is this family has hurt those families. That's what we know. And that's what the evidence says. When Mr. O'Doul gets up and talks about Pepsi and Coca-Cola, we didn't see them on the stand. They're not on trial. But this message you send today will speak to them and everyone in that industry. Shane, let me see the third slide. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this, but I want to make sure. I don't care if it's a small company, big company, family-owned company, it does not matter. You don't get to put money and profits ahead of public safety. You just don't. And this jury, each of you won't allow that by this decision. Shane, if you could you go to slide number 12. Remember I told you, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst? Mr. O'Doul did not suggest a number. I guess he wants you to put 0, thinking that perhaps that will send the message. How do you send a message to an industry that makes $95 billion a year? 1% won't do it, 2% at a minimum when it was $85 billion in 2022. It has to be a meaningful number. That's the only way you deter people in this community, in this industry, from doing what Real Water did. That's it. And I want you to consider that when you're in deliberations. Could you show me slide 14, please, Shane?
I think our slide numbers are off. Which one are you looking for, Mr. Parker?
I will show it to you just to make sure. Thank you, sir. This is how the verdict form looks. And we're asking, which is again a number between 4.5% and 5%, 4.75. And that number turns out to be that 4.75% of $95 billion is that number. That's what we're believing to be a middle ground, which is just above nominal based upon the only evidence we have in this case on what it would take to lead an impactful and meaningful award in this case. Because remember, Real Water did not bring in a CPA. Real Water didn't contest or dispute Mr. Rich's testimony, which means that is the only evidence we have to give you some direction on punitive damage. Slide 16. I saw this quote, and it always meant something to me. Hopefully it means something to you as a jury. Jimmy Carter, of course, one of our presidents says, I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can, whatever I have to try to make a difference. This is your chance. Real Water brought these 15 people together. That poisonous, toxic water brought them together. And after 3.5 years of hard litigation, that poisonous, toxic product by Real Water brought us all together. You're here for a reason. You are here to make a difference, and I ask that you do. My final slide, if you could, this is one that's short but to the point. Harry S. Truman, he actually was the one who says the buck stops with me. That's one that everyone knows. He had it on his plaque in the Oval Office. And we all know that. And the buck does stop with you, with this group. But this one, to me, has always been key. Do your best, and history will do the rest. This decision will be history. And we ask that you all do your best. Read with reason, with thoughtful consideration to the evidence you've heard, not the argument counts. And please provide an award that you believe will send that message to Real Water and to others in this community. Thank you so much for your time on behalf of everyone here, all of the plaintiffs. And hopefully that wasn't too long. Thank you.
All right, thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Honor.
Okay, Mr. Marshall. And for the record, we've already administered the oath to the marshal. Okay, sir, you can take the jury to the jury deliberation room. Thank you, sir. All right, counsel, anything else?
Nothing from plaintiff, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor. Obviously, we'll stay close.
Yes.
Is the court going to still take a break between now and 1:30?
Yes, I will.
So we at least know we have till 1:30.
You have it till 1:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. All right. And we're on a record, is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, I just want to say good afternoon to everyone, and it's my understanding, Mr. Marshall, we have a verdict, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, we're going to go ahead and bring the jury in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Great.
And I guess we did, today's Wednesday, right? So we came back on time.
Absolutely. I went through it.
Have you seen him since like this?
I've spoken to him since the case. I spoke to him in May or June.
Okay. Doing all right?
Yeah, yeah. I spoke to him right after they settled.
Oh, ready. Okay. That makes sense.
But I've not seen or heard from Scott since then.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Oh, yeah, he told us he was going to try to figure it out. Tupac truck. Yeah, that's cool.
All rise to the jury.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say good afternoon to you. And I hope you enjoyed lunch. And Madam, I don't know, well, yes, let's go ahead and stipulate to the presence of the jury.
So stipulate your.
Stipulated on behalf of Real Water, Your Honor.
Okay. And Madam Foreperson, it's my understanding we have a verdict, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, can you hand it to the court martial? Thank you, sir. Let the record reflect I'm handing the verdict to the court clerk. Ma'am.
District Court, Clark County, Nevada, case number A-21-831-776-B, Department 16, Hunter Brown individually, Pamela Brown individually, Carla Moreno individually, Yaniv Ita as Special Administrator of the Estate of Adir Ita, decedent, the Estate of Adir Ita, decedent, Monica Branch Noto individually, and Stephen Watkins individually, Tuconte Henry, an individual, Gray Maynard, an individual, Sherry Rasmussen, an individual, Daniel Taylor, an individual, Trevor Abley, a minor child by and through his natural parents, Brian Abley and Sandra Abley, Daisy Wee, an individual, Vincent Link, an individual, Lorenzo Muniz, an individual, Randy Wren, an individual, plaintiffs versus AffinityLifestyles.com Incorporated, DBA Real Water, a Nevada Corporation, Real Water Incorporated, a Delaware Corporation, defendants. Punitive damages verdict. We, the jury, return the following verdict. Punitive damages are awarded against Real Water in the following amount: $5 million, dated this 23rd day of October 2024, signed by jury foreperson.
All right. And do either of the parties decide to, you want to have the jury poll?
No, we have to plaintiff now.
No, Your Honor.
Okay,
Awesome.
go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict as read?
Yes.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're at the end now and I can discharge you. But before I let you go, I just want to just make a couple of final comments. First and foremost, I just want to thank all of you for coming down here and participating in our justice system. Like I had indicated at the very outset, at the very beginning, when I first met you, when you were filling out, or before you filled out the jury questionnaires, we had a discussion about a couple of important topics. And one of the topics we talked about was the preamble to the Constitution of the United States and the role justice plays in our great nation. But just as important too, and I really focused on this because I wanted you to understand why you were there. And I do get it that this is a great inconvenience, but remember we talked about the fact that there's nothing convenient about a democracy, and that's essentially what we have. Just as important too, and I talked about this, that at the end of the day, ultimately under our system of government, the final decision is made not by me as the trial judge, but by we the people, you know, members of our nation that are willing to sit and put out the time and be inconvenient and coming down here every day, right? You did that. I feel one thing I'm pleased about is this: we were able to live up to our side because we did get the case done on time, right? That we did, and I can't always make that promise. Keep that promise, I should say, because things happen. But the lawyers are to be commended for being very efficient and really getting to the point in this case. And so anyway, I just want to thank you for coming down, for participating in our justice system. And I do feel that, I think I'm the only one that's ever said this, but I do feel strongly that from a symbolic perspective that the men and women who sit on juries should wear black robes just like the judge. And the reason for it is this: you are the judiciary. You are for your term. You make the ultimate determination as to what the facts are, and you apply those facts to the rules of law that I give you. And that's our system of justice, and it's unlike any other system in the world. Is it perfect? No, but I know none better. But I just want to thank you for coming down. You're going to be discharged, and it's up to you. You can talk to counsel if you want to. You don't have to. But trust me in this regard, they would never question your verdict. They won't do that. They might have questions regarding what you felt was important and those types of things, you know, and so you're free to do that. If you don't want to talk to them, you don't have to. But I just wanted to let you know that. And because whether it's the plaintiff and or the defendant, the lawyers in this case are very professional. They're very nice people. They would never do anything to challenge the verdict. And because for them it's kind of a clinic, if you understand what I mean, because they don't get a chance to talk very often to jurors as far as, okay, what was important? And that it might be a simple question like that. And they take that to the next case, right, as part of their experience when it comes to presentation of evidence and also argument. So anyway, I guess right now you are released. Mr. Marshall.
All right, all rise to the departure of the jury.
So,
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we're in recess. If you want to go out and talk to them, you can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you for the court staff. Really appreciate it.